She hid in the bathroom to cry, but the man who found her tears was the very billionaire who would not let her disappear. Maya Johnson balanced a tray of champagne in the glittering ballroom of a Manhattan hotel. Gold chandeliers lit the room, laughter rose like a tide, but no one noticed the black woman weaving silently through the crowd. To them, she was just the help. Her phone buzzed against her hip. Another rejection email, another threat from her landlord. The weight of failure pressed harder than the tray in her hands. She forced a smile that felt like glass, then slipped down a quiet hallway. Inside the restroom, she set the tray aside, her shoulders shaking. She pressed her palms to her face, whispering, "Just 1 minute. Let me fall apart alone." But footsteps echoed closer. Firm. Unavoidable. Maya swiped at her eyes, bracing for a stranger's pity. Instead, a tall man in a dark suit stood at the doorway. His eyes caught hers, steady and unblinking. Ethan Carter had seen her break, and in that moment, weakness became the beginning of something neither of them expected. What happens when a hidden tear collides with a billionaire's gaze? Will Maya's pain become her downfall, or the start of something greater? Comment your guess below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss how this story unfolds. Ethan Carter stepped closer, his presence filling the quiet corridor. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded handkerchief, holding it out without a word. His voice, when it came, was calm, steady. "Take this. It's better than your sleeve." Maya hesitated. The fabric looked soft, cedar-scented, impossibly clean compared to her uniform. She wanted to refuse, to keep her walls high, but her fingers brushed his as she accepted it. The contact sent a jolt through her chest. Her mind snapped back. A white billionaire can't possibly understand what it feels like to carry this weight. He has never worried about rent. He has never stood in a room and felt invisible because of his skin. She dabbed at her eyes, trying to mask the storm inside. "You always carry these around for crying strangers?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Only when they look like they're fighting a battle," he said, his gaze unwavering. Maya wanted to look away, but something about his eyes held her. For the first time all night, she didn't feel entirely unseen. The silence pressed between them, heavy but not cruel. Ethan leaned lightly against the wall, his tone softer now. "What happened tonight?" Maya let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "Pick one thing. Every design firm I applied to said no, not even a maybe, just flat rejection." Her grip tightened on the handkerchief. "And my landlord left me a message reminding me that I'm one payment away from losing the only roof I have." Her words came quick, jagged, like pieces of glass. "So here I am, serving champagne to people who wouldn't even notice if I dropped the whole tray at their feet." Ethan listened, his expression shifting. Jaw tense, eyes sharp with something she couldn't name. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix her words. He just listened. Maya hated the warmth that rose in her chest. She had told herself she wouldn't bend, wouldn't spill her pain to someone like him. But his quiet attention broke through her guard in ways pity never could. For once, she didn't feel like a problem to be solved. She felt like a story worth hearing. Ethan's voice cut through the silence, low but certain. "Those firms were blind. Your landlord's cruel. But you—" He paused, eyes locked on her. "You're stronger than all of that." Maya stiffened, anger sparking through her tears. "Stronger?" She laughed bitterly. "What you see is a black waitress crying in a hotel hallway. That's all anyone ever sees." Her words hung heavy, charged with years of being dismissed, overlooked, judged by the color of her skin before her talent could even speak. "You think strength means never breaking?" Ethan's tone held no pity, only conviction. "I think strength is what you're doing right now, standing here when the world keeps pushing you down." Maya shook her head, her pulse hammering. He doesn't know. He can't know. To her, he was everything she had fought against: wealth, whiteness, power untouched by struggle, and yet his words chipped at her walls, dangerous in their warmth. Because deep inside, a part of her wanted to believe him. The ballroom music swelled faintly in the distance, a reminder of the world waiting outside. Ethan glanced back toward the glow, then at her again. His eyes lingered, as if weighing something unspoken. He didn't explain who he was. He didn't tell her that his name carried weight across the city, that he owned more of this hotel than any guest inside. He simply gave a quiet nod, the trace of a smile at his lips. "Don't let them take your fire," he said, almost a whisper. Then he turned, his steps steady, leaving her in the hush of the corridor. Maya clutched the handkerchief tighter, its cedar scent clinging to her skin. She watched his figure fade back into the world of chandeliers and champagne. To her, he was just another rich man who had paused for a moment of kindness, nothing more. But the echo of his words stayed with her, refusing to let go. She didn't know it yet, couldn't know, that the man who had seen her tears was no guest at all. He was Ethan Carter, the billionaire at the heart of it all. Maya pushed open the door to her small apartment in Harlem. The place smelled of old paint and damp carpet. A stack of unopened bills waited on the counter, envelopes stamped in red. Final notices. She dropped her bag and sank into the worn couch. Her chest tightened as she picked up one letter after another. Electricity overdue, gas overdue, rent already late. A knock rattled the door. The landlord's voice carried through the thin walls. "Maya, you're 2 weeks behind. I can't keep waiting. Pay by Friday, or I'll have to start the process." She pressed her forehead into her hands, shame and anger twisting together. Working double shifts still wasn't enough. The city was swallowing her whole. The handkerchief sat folded in her pocket, still scented faintly of cedar. It reminded her of the stranger's steady gaze, the one moment all day she hadn't felt invisible. But memories wouldn't pay the bills. She shoved the fabric deeper into her pocket and whispered to herself, "I need a way out. I need one chance." The silence of the apartment offered no answer, only the echo of her own desperation. The next morning, Maya opened her cracked laptop, ready to face another round of rejection emails. She clicked through the inbox, bracing for disappointment. Then she froze. Subject line, interview, invitation, Carter Innovations. Her eyes widened. Carter Innovations was one of the largest tech and design firms in the city. She had applied months ago and heard nothing. This had to be a mistake, maybe spam, maybe a cruel trick. Her fingers trembled as she read the details. A panel interview scheduled for the next afternoon. Bring your portfolio. Her heart pounded. A chance, an actual chance. Doubt crept in just as quickly. Why now? Why her? She had no connections, no prestige, no polished resume, just raw work and stubborn persistence. Still, she couldn't ignore it. Hope, fragile but fierce, pushed through the fear. She whispered into the empty room, "Don't get carried away, Maya. It could be nothing." Yet, deep inside, something told her it was real, and it might be the break she had begged for. The day of the interview, Maya stood in front of the mirror in her tiny bedroom. The reflection staring back at her wore a blazer bought second-hand, sleeves a little short but pressed carefully, her shoes scuffed but clean. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. The doubt in her chest was loud, but so was the fire. She lifted her portfolio, the edges worn from nights of sketching and revisions. Each page carried pieces of her fight, designs bold and unapologetic. Her eyes lingered on her reflection. A black woman who had been told no 100 times. A woman one step away from eviction. A woman about to walk into a company that didn't expect her to belong. "Don't shrink," she whispered to herself. "They don't get to decide who I am." The mirror didn't answer, but the woman looking back stood taller. For the first time in days, her smile felt real. Not polished, not forced, but fueled by defiance. She grabbed her bag, locked the door, and stepped into the city morning. The interview was waiting, and so was the fight to prove she deserved to be seen. The lobby of Carter Innovations gleamed with glass and steel. Maya's heels clicked against the polished floor as she followed the receptionist into a conference room. 3 people sat at a long table, clipboards in hand. Their expressions gave nothing away. Maya placed her portfolio down, palms slightly damp. Her voice shook at first as she introduced herself, but she pushed through, steadying with each word. She flipped open her work, explaining her vision for branding that cut through noise, designs that spoke bold when others stayed safe. One panelist scribbled notes, another frowned, the third leaned back in silence. The air felt heavy, every second stretching. Maya forced herself to keep speaking, her words simple but firm. "I believe design isn't decoration. It's the soul of a company. If you want to be seen, you have to be brave." Her throat tightened, but she kept her chin up. No one could say she hadn't tried. For a moment, the room was still. Then the door opened, and everything shifted. Footsteps crossed the room. Maya turned, her breath catching. It was him, the man from the hotel corridor, the one who had handed her a cedar-scented handkerchief and told her not to lose her fire. He wore a charcoal suit now, his presence commanding without a word. The panelists straightened immediately. "Apologies for joining late," he said, taking the head seat at the table. "I'm Ethan Carter, CEO of Carter Innovations." Maya's world tilted. CEO. Not just another guest, not just a stranger passing by, but the man who ran the very company she was desperate to join. Her pulse raced. Did he remember her? Did he recognize the woman who had cried in a hotel bathroom? Ethan's gaze flicked to her, steady, unreadable. A glimmer of recognition sparked in his eyes, but his tone stayed formal. "Miss Johnson," he said smoothly, "let's see what you've brought us." Maya swallowed hard, every nerve alive. The stranger who had seen her weakness was now the man holding her future. Ethan Carter leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on Maya. His voice carried the calm authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Your portfolio is bold," he said, flipping a page. "But bold can be reckless. What makes you think Carter Innovations needs your vision?" The question landed heavy, a test disguised as curiosity. The panelists shifted, waiting for her to falter. Maya straightened her shoulders. Her voice wavered at first, but her conviction sharpened with each word. "Because your brand looks powerful but cold. It wins attention, but it doesn't breathe. People don't connect to cold. They connect to human. That's what I designed for." A faint murmur moved through the room. One panelist raised a brow, another scribbled notes faster. Ethan's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly, studying her like she was more than just another applicant. Maya held his gaze, unflinching. "You asked why my vision matters. It matters because it can turn your empire from untouchable into unforgettable." Silence stretched. She refused to look away first. For the first time all day, she felt not like a candidate, but like an equal standing her ground. The panel dismissed her politely, thanking her for her time. Maya gathered her portfolio, her palms still warm from the weight of Ethan's stare. As she stepped into the hallway, her chest heaved with adrenaline. She had faced the most powerful man in the room and spoken the truth out loud. No apology, no shrinking. Her footsteps echoed against the glass walls as she whispered to herself, "If I get this job, it won't be because he handed it to me. It'll be because I earned it." The elevator ride down felt endless. Her reflection in the mirrored doors showed a woman who had taken her shot. Whether she won or lost, no one could say she hadn't fought. Ethan's expression replayed in her mind. Controlled, unreadable, yet edged with something she couldn't name. Admiration? Curiosity? She shoved the thought aside. What mattered was simple. She had walked into that room as invisible. She walked out visible, even if only to herself. "Talent speaks louder than pity," she muttered, gripping her portfolio tighter. And in that moment, she vowed that no matter what came, she would rise on her own strength. Days later, an email arrived. Maya's hands trembled as she opened it. "We are pleased to offer you the position of junior designer at Carter Innovations." Relief surged through her chest, quickly followed by nerves. This was her chance and her test. On her first day, the branding department buzzed with energy. Screens glowed, designers debated, sketches littered the desks. Maya stepped in, clutching her notebook, trying to steady her breath. A woman with sleek blonde hair approached, her smile too sharp to be kind. "You must be the new girl," she said. "Vanessa, senior designer." Her tone dripped with sweetness edged in steel. Maya nodded politely. "Yes, I'm Maya." Vanessa's gaze flicked over her outfit, her skin, her nervous posture. "Interesting hire," she said lightly, before walking away. Maya felt the sting but kept her chin high. She had expected resistance. Success never came without it. Her desk felt small, but her determination filled it. She whispered under her breath, "They don't have to like me. They just have to see me." And she intended to make sure they would. The first assignment landed on Maya's desk, a concept logo for the company's new tech campaign. She sketched late into the night, her lines bold, her shapes sharp, her vision unapologetic. The next morning, she pinned her design to the board during team review. A sleek mark, modern yet fierce, carrying the spark she saw in herself. Whispers moved across the room. Some impressed, some doubtful. Vanessa stepped forward, her voice dripping with disdain. "Too aggressive. Doesn't fit our brand. Maybe she doesn't understand our style yet." Maya's chest tightened, but before she could respond, another voice cut through. Ethan Carter had entered quietly, his presence drawing every eye. He studied the board, then looked at Maya. "Bold," he said. "Exactly what we need." Vanessa's jaw tightened, but Ethan didn't flinch. His gaze stayed on Maya a second too long, an unspoken shield against the doubt surrounding her. Maya swallowed, her pulse racing. She wasn't sure what meant more, that her work had spoken, or that someone powerful had chosen to believe in it. Either way, she wasn't invisible anymore. It didn't take long for whispers to spread through the office. In break rooms, in hushed corners, the story grew. She's only here because she's black. No, it's because the CEO has a thing for her. Did you see the way he defended her design? Maya heard fragments as she passed, each word heavier than the last. At her desk, her hands hovered over her sketches, trembling. She had fought for this chance, poured herself into every line, every pitch. Yet the credit was already being stolen, twisted into rumors of favoritism and pity. Late that night, as the office emptied, she sat alone under the glow of her screen. The handkerchief still rested in her pocket. She touched it, her throat tightening. "Am I being seen for my work?" she whispered, "or just for his eyes?" The question echoed in her chest, louder than the silence around her, and for the first time since she started, the victory of being chosen felt fragile, like it could be ripped away by voices that refused to see her for who she truly was. The boardroom was lined with glass, the city skyline stretching beyond. Maya stood at the front, her slides glowing behind her. She outlined her concept with steady words, data woven into design, vision tied to numbers. At first, the executives listened in silence. Then Richard, a senior voice at the table, leaned back with a smirk. "It's flashy," he said, loud enough for the room. "Too much flair for a serious company. We need restraint, not the doodles of a junior." The words cut, sharp as knives. A few heads turned away, others hid smiles. Maya's throat tightened, but she forced herself to breathe. "Flashy gets attention," she said, her voice even. "Safe blends into the background. Our competitors play safe, and they're fading." Richard's smirk deepened. "You're new, and you're overstepping. Maybe remember your place." His eyes slid over her, dismissive. "A junior designer. A black junior designer." Her pulse hammered. Tears threatened, but she swallowed them. She clicked to the next slide, her tone hardening. "Data shows higher engagement for bold campaigns. 18% above average. That's not opinion. That's proof." The room stilled. For the first time, Richard's smile faltered. The silence stretched, heavy and uncertain. Maya's heart pounded in her ears. She had spoken, but would anyone stand with her? Then Ethan's voice cut clean across the table. "She's right." Every head turned. "Safe doesn't sell," he continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "This company was built on risk. Playing small has never made us leaders." The weight of his words silenced the whispers. Richard stiffened, but said nothing more. Maya stood frozen, her chest tight. She had defended herself with facts, but it was Ethan's voice that shifted the balance. The power in the room had tilted, and it tilted toward her. An executive cleared his throat. "We'll move forward with Johnson's direction." The decision landed like a stone in the water, ripples spreading. Maya forced herself to stand tall, though her knees trembled. For the first time, her idea wasn't just heard, it was chosen. Her eyes flicked toward Ethan, who met her gaze briefly before looking away, as if nothing unusual had passed between them. But the truth was written in the silence. She had won, and he had made sure the world knew it. After the meeting, the office buzzed with tension. Maya gathered her notes quickly, hoping to disappear into the crowd. But Ethan's voice stopped her. "Maya, a word." He led her into a quiet corner near the glass windows. The city lights glowed behind him, his tone softer now. "You handled yourself well. That wasn't easy." Maya crossed her arms, her pulse still racing. "I didn't need saving." He shook his head. "I didn't save you. I agreed with you. There's a difference." Her guard flared anyway. "From where I stand, it looked like the CEO swooped in to rescue the poor junior designer. That's not what I want." Her voice sharpened. "I don't want to be your project, or your puppet." For a moment, silence stretched. His eyes didn't waver, but his jaw tightened. "I don't see you that way," he said quietly. "I see someone willing to fight when it counts." Maya's chest ached with conflicting emotions. Relief, suspicion, something warmer she refused to name. She turned away, gripping her notes. "Then let me prove myself, without your shadow on me." That night, as most of the office emptied, Maya stayed behind, polishing her designs. The floor was quiet, the hum of city lights spilling through tall windows. She didn't notice Ethan until he spoke. "You still here?" She glanced up, startled, then returned to her screen. "Work doesn't finish itself." He stepped closer, resting one hand lightly on the desk. "I meant what I said earlier. You're not here by chance. I saw fire in you that night in the hotel corridor. It hasn't left me since." Her breath caught. The memory of her tears, the handkerchief, the sting of shame, all tangled with his words now. She forced a small laugh, bitter on her tongue. "You saw a mess. That's all?" "No," he said, voice low but firm. "I saw someone breaking, but still standing. That takes more strength than most people have." Maya's chest tightened, her defenses warring with the pull of his gaze. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to push him away, both at once. Before she could answer, he stepped back. "Go home, Maya, but don't forget what I said." His words lingered, impossible to ignore. Maya's apartment was dim when she returned. She dropped her bag, the silence pressing around her. She pulled the handkerchief from her pocket, the cedar scent still faint after all this time. Holding it, she sank onto the couch, her chest aching. Her mind replayed this day, the humiliation in the boardroom, the triumph of winning, the way Ethan had looked at her like she was more than her title. Her fingers curled tighter around the fabric. She wanted him. That much was undeniable, but desire wasn't enough. She needed respect. She needed to know her victories were hers, not borrowed from his power. Her whisper filled the room, fragile and fierce. "I can't just be the girl he noticed in the hallway. I have to be more." Tears welled, but she blinked them back. She had cried enough already. The handkerchief lay warm in her hand, both comfort and reminder. Maya leaned back, staring at the cracked ceiling. She didn't know which battle would be harder, the fight for her career or the fight to keep her heart her own. Either way, she wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. The office was nearly empty, screens dim, the hum of the city drifting in through tall windows. Maya stayed at her desk, sketches spread like battle plans. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion clawing at her focus. A low voice broke the quiet. "Still here?" She looked up. Ethan stood at the doorway, jacket gone, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He stepped closer, studying the designs. "These are good. You're pushing boundaries." Maya's chest tightened as he leaned over her desk, their shoulders almost touching. His warmth, his scent, everything pulled her closer. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy but alive. His hand brushed hers as he pointed to a sketch, and the spark was undeniable. Their eyes locked. Time slowed. He leaned in, just enough for her breath to catch. Her pulse raced, her lips parted. Then she pulled back sharply. "We can't." His jaw tightened, but his voice was calm. "I know." The moment cracked, leaving only the echo of what almost was. Maya turned back to her screen, her heart pounding too loudly to hear her own thoughts. The next morning, whispers spread like wildfire. Maya heard them in the hallways, in the elevator, even at her own desk. "She's only here because Carter wants her. Of course she got her pitch approved. She's keeping him entertained. Sleeping her way up. Classic." Each word landed like a slap. She kept her eyes on her screen, hands trembling on the mouse. Vanessa's laugh rang out across the room, too loud, too pointed. Maya clenched her jaw. Fighting back would only feed them. Silence was the only shield she had left, but silence hurt. It screamed louder than their lies. At lunch, she sat alone, stabbing at a salad she couldn't taste. Vanessa passed by, her smile razor-sharp. "Careful, Maya. People are starting to talk." Maya's throat burned, but she said nothing. She wasn't going to let them see her break. Still, when she returned to her desk, shame clung to her tighter than the whispers, and the question lingered, cruel and relentless. Do they see my work, or just their story about me? That evening, Maya returned to her desk after a late meeting. The lights were low, the office quiet. On top of her sketches lay a single sticky note in clean handwriting. "Your work is brilliant. Keep going." No signature, but she knew. Her throat tightened. She picked up the note, pressing it between her fingers. For the first time that week, a smile flickered through her exhaustion. Her eyes stung, but the tears felt different. Lighter, almost freeing. Someone saw her, not the rumors, not the whispers. Her work, her fire. She folded the note carefully and slid it into her notebook. It wasn't a rescue. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. Silent, but certain. She whispered into the empty room, "Thank you." The words would never reach him, but the message had already found its mark. For one night, the gossip didn't own her. For one night, the fire in her chest burned brighter than the noise around her. Another late night. The city glittered outside, and the floor was empty except for Maya and Ethan. She gathered her things, ready to leave, when his voice stopped her. "You're not mine," he said, his tone raw, "but I want to be yours." The words froze her in place. She turned slowly, eyes wide. He stood near the window, the skyline behind him, his face unguarded. Her chest ached, the weight of his honesty pressing against the walls she had built. Tears welled before she could stop them. "You don't know what you're saying," she whispered, voice breaking. "I know exactly what I'm saying," he replied, stepping closer. "I saw you at your lowest, and I've seen you fight since. I don't want to own you, Maya. I want to stand with you." Her tears slipped free, hot against her skin. For the first time, she didn't fight them. Something in her heart shifted, walls cracking, letting light in. She didn't answer, not yet. But the silence between them was no longer cold. The investor meeting was tense, the air thick with money and power. Maya stood at the front, her designs glowing on the screen. She spoke with a voice steadier than she felt. "This campaign is bold, because bold is what moves markets. Safe doesn't win. Safe disappears." Whispers rippled across the table. Some nodded, others frowned. Richard leaned back with a mocking smile. "Big talk from a junior. Maybe slow down before you sink us." Maya inhaled sharply. Her pulse raced, but she lifted her chin. "Safe doesn't win," she repeated, louder now. "Bold does. Carter Innovations didn't rise by playing small. Neither will this campaign." The room stilled. Investors exchanged looks. Then, slowly, applause began. Scattered at first, then building. Maya's chest swelled. She had spoken, and they had listened. For the first time, she wasn't fighting to be seen. She was leading. At the far end of the table, Ethan's gaze met hers, pride flickering in his eyes. She held it for only a second before turning back to the room, her smile sharp with victory. The next morning, the branding floor buzzed with whispers. Ethan Carter walked in, his voice carrying over the chatter. "Attention, everyone!" The team gathered, eyes sharp with curiosity. Ethan looked toward Maya, then back to the group. "Effective immediately, Maya Johnson will serve as lead designer for the tech campaign. Her vision will guide this launch." Gasps rippled through the room. Some clapped, others exchanged uneasy glances. Vanessa's smile never reached her eyes. "Interesting choice," she said. Her tone clipped, but her nails dug into her palm. Maya's heart raced. Recognition in front of everyone, a role she had fought for, now handed openly, publicly. She forced a steady breath, bowing her head slightly. "Thank you. I'll give this everything I have." Ethan's gaze lingered a moment longer than it should have. Then he turned, dismissing the crowd. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, her voice low enough only she could hear. "This isn't over, Maya." Maya felt the sting, but the triumph was louder. For the first time, the whole company had no choice but to see her. Later that week, Ethan called Maya into his office. The skyline stretched wide behind him, the city glowing like a promise. On his desk lay a folder. He slid it toward her. "This is a contract, a partnership agreement, not just employment. I want you as a principal voice in Carter Innovations." Maya blinked, her fingers hovering above the pages. Inside was more than she had ever imagined. Salary beyond her dreams, decision-making power, her name inked beside his. Her throat tightened. "Why me?" "Because your work proves you belong here," he said evenly. "And because I trust you to carry this company forward." Emotions surged. Gratitude, disbelief, suspicion. Was this business, or was it more? Her hands trembled as she closed the folder. "It's everything I ever wanted," she whispered. "But I need to know it's not just because of us." Ethan's eyes softened. "It's because of you. All of you." Maya's chest burned with conflict. She wanted to believe him, but trust was a mountain she wasn't ready to climb yet. The room was quiet, the city lights flickering against glass. Ethan didn't reach for the folder again. Instead, he reached into his pocket. A velvet box. He opened it slowly, revealing a simple, elegant ring that caught the light. His voice was low, stripped of titles. "Maya, walk with me. Not as my employee, not as my project, as my partner, as my life." Her breath caught. Tears blurred her vision, spilling before she could stop them. "This is insane," she whispered, shaking her head. "We shouldn't." "But we should," he said, stepping closer. "You've been more than strong. You've been more than brave. You've been exactly what I've searched for, not in business, in life." Her knees weakened under the weight of his words. The ring sparkled between them, not as a prize, but as a vow. Maya's heart cracked open. For the first time, she let herself feel it fully. The love, the respect, the chance to belong without shrinking. Tears streamed freely now. The moment was bigger than career. It was everything. Maya's lips trembled as she whispered, "Yes." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands steady, his eyes fierce with devotion. Then he pulled her close, and their lips met. No longer forbidden, no longer fragile. A kiss that sealed both promise and defiance. Behind them, the Manhattan skyline blazed with light. In her mind, images collided. The girl crying in a hotel bathroom, clutching unpaid bills. The waitress no one saw. The designer dismissed as too bold, too black, too new. And now, here, lead designer, partner, fiancé of the man who once handed her a handkerchief in silence. Maya clung to him, her heart pounding with victory. Not the kind won alone, not the kind handed down, but the kind forged through fire and scars. When they finally parted, she laughed through tears. From a bathroom breakdown to this? Ethan smiled, brushing her cheek. To this, and beyond. The city roared beneath them, but all she heard was the rhythm of his breath and the certainty of her own triumph. One hidden tear changed everything for Maya Johnson. From invisible to unstoppable. From silence to a voice that could no longer be ignored. Her journey was not only about falling in love with a powerful man. It was about standing tall when the world told her to shrink. About turning rejection and shame into fuel. About demanding respect and finally earning it. The handkerchief she once clutched in despair, the boardroom where she fought to be heard, the ring that sealed her victory, all became symbols of her rise. Have you ever been overlooked? Rejected? Told you didn't belong? Maya's story is a reminder. Your dream matters, your fight matters, and your tears can be the spark that lights a new beginning. If her journey touched you, share your own story. And don't forget to subscribe, so together we can walk into the next chapter of dreams, resilience, and love.